Hello, good afternoon.
Maya ma'am,
Hello.
now he is available.
Dr. Rajkumar ji, are there?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Welcome, sir.
Ma'am, open
Yeah,
your cam. Ma'am,
good
open your
afternoon.
camera, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. थोड़ा कैमरा ऊपर को जा रहा है ये यस मैम ओके यस मैम
Welcome, sir, in this program. Start करें, रफीक साहब?
yes ma'am.
Namaskar. Very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Gautam Buddha University and Bharat Digital Academy, I welcome all the participants in second day of faculty development program. As a resource person, today we have with Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj ji, Chief Librarian, St. Stephen's College, New Delhi. A very warm welcome you, sir, in this program. Sir, are you there?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Before moving ahead to next session, I would like to recall previous topic, information skill, that is given by the Dr. Manorama Tripathi ma'am. In the age of digital, where information is abundant and easily accessible to the users, information literacy skill play important role because there are various fields where we need to apply our information literacy skills. Say, for example, in information retrieval, sources evaluation, information organization, information analysis, ethical use of information, effective communication, etc. We hope you had a fruitful experiences from first day topic. As we move forward, we are exciting to announce second day topic, that is research data management in libraries by Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj ji, sir. Now it is time to introduce our resource person.
Shall I start, ma'am?
Hello. Our resource person, Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj ji. He chief librarian in St. Stephen College, New Delhi, and he has been an integral part of St. Stephen College, University of Delhi since 2009, where he currently serves as a chief librarian. With a strong educational background, including a PhD, Dr. Bhardwaj has constantly demonstrated the dedication to the field of information management. For his exceptional contribution, Dr. Bhardwaj was awarded the UNESCO Fellowship for Information Management. Additionally, he has honored with prestigious Commonwealth Professional Fellowship in the United Kingdom. In 2022, Dr. Bhardwaj's remarkable achievements were acknowledged with the Informatic Innovation Award and the Informatic Outstanding Research Award. Before joining St. Stephen's College, Dr. Bhardwaj made significant contribution as an assistant professor in the School of Information and Communication Studies at the Central University of Punjab. During his tenure, he played a pivotal role in establishing the department and was instrumental in designing the curriculum for the master's and PhD programs, ensuring a strong foundation for future information professional. Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj ji, passion for library science coupled with his academic leadership role make him a highly respected figure in the field. With this extensive knowledge and expertise, he continues to shape the landscape of information management and inspire the next generation of librarian and researcher. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj ji to start his presentation. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Maya Devi, Madam, or other dignitaries, and hello to participants. And we are very small numbers here, so I would prefer to have a close interaction rather than in lecture mode. I just completed one more lecture actually. It was in different university. So would prefer to have a interaction rather than a lecture mode. And it's very new topic, research data management. Very new to Indian libraries. But as a librarian, we need to learn different ways of doing things. Something which we can't implement, we need to learn because it has a lot of implications. So as a researcher, as a librarians, we need to learn what are the social and practical implications of our subjects, the growth and development of our subject, and what are the new areas being coming up. So, and that's one of the area research data management. It's very old actually, and my experience of using this research data management, research started way back in 2017 when I was a program fellow in UK for 3 months, and that time I learned this research data management and its different practices by visiting different labs with different data centers. So what I would like to highlight here, why do we need to learn this research data? What are its implications for a librarian, for a researchers? And the story actually begins. I would like to start this presentation by a story. So there were two forces World War II. One was alien and another was Axis. So aliens planes were shooting down by the Axis, and they had a meeting that there are lots of planes being down by the Axis. So what are the reasons? So they studied the different data of the aeroplane being shot down, and they found that the lots of bullets they found in the tails part of, and lots of bullets they found in the wings of the planes. So the experts came with the solution. Why not to cover the tail part of the aircraft and the wings of the aircraft? So somebody said, let's cover the tail part, and somebody suggested, why not to cover the wings part? Okay. So that's how it started. But one expert, he said, why you are looking to this data about these planes which came back to us? So the data tells about those planes which returned back. But we don't have the data of the plane which have not returned back. So the planes which are not returned back, they've been shot at the head part, the pilot area of the plane, not the tail or wings part. And he suggested that we should cover the armor part of, we should armor the front portion of the engine portion of the plane, not the tails and wings part. So that's one way of the data, one way of telling the story of the data. It's not the data is important. It's the story which we make using the data that is very important. And the ultimate aim of research data management has a 2 dimension. One dimension is as a library and information science professionals, because we not just see library as a information, because information is also being generated using the data. Some form, it's also the refined form of the data. So data which is not the refined form, that should also be included, because that can also tell us some stories, how the researcher has initiated study, how the researchers has solved the problem. So research data is also very important, and that's one we need to remember, and that's why we have collected the data from different researcher and starting a different reports. But the ultimate aim of the data management is we actually envision that fear there should be a fair principle. The data which we are collecting, it should be in a findable form. It should be in interoperable form so that it can be reused after accessing it. And that's we call it fair principle, findable, interoperable, accessible, and reusable. So why we are collecting the data in the library? Why there is such data management suddenly become important is because we want to reuse the data. We want to see the data from different dimensions. Because if one problem when you solve doesn't end, the other person may also encounter similar kind of problem. And when you look at data from different dimensions, we can also find different solutions using the same data sets. And that's why this FAIR principle has come into existence, because we want to reuse the data. But as a librarian, I counter that these FAIR principle we have already been discussed in the past in the form of 5 laws of library information science, where we says books are for use. Every reader should have his or her book. Every book should have its reader, say the time of the readers, and the library is a growing organism. These 5 principles are sufficient for the research data management, and not just the FAIR. FAIR has actually not that deep down thought, but what we have in the 5 laws of library information science. So before we begin this research data management concept as a whole, we need to think that the 3 principles Ranganathan has given that can also solve our problem of research data management. That Ranganathan says that there are idea planes. We need to ponder upon different ideas, how this data can be managed, how this data can be gathered, how this data can be accessible and reused. So we need to think of different idea planes and prepare a blueprint going through the verbal plane by discussing different stakeholders who create the data, who manage the data, and who will make different guidelines to make it reusable, and then prepare a blueprint to execute that plan. So our own philosophy, which are more indigenous, has a lot more solutions that offer a lot more solutions in research data management as well. And that's my argument of today's presentation is not just the FAIR principle, but Ranganathan philosophies, 5 laws, and other philosophical aspects are still relevant, and that actually more relevant in research data management. So, but before we begin that philosophy, and I reinforce my argument, we also need to understand what is research data. So research data, someone said, it is an information that has been collected, observed, generated, or created to validate the original research finding. So the data which validate the research finding is considered as research data. But if you have a data, but it doesn't validate the findings of the research, doesn't fall under this category. So does research data should validate the finding? Research data should actually have that attributes so that you can verify the findings of your research. And that research data, the tools and techniques, in fact, one notebook, if your notebook in a laboratory verify the finding of research, that also become a research data. In social science research, we have a questionnaires. So we prepare different set of questionnaires. We sometimes conduct interviews through the structured set of questions. So these questions also guide us. These questions also help us in validating the findings of the research. And therefore, these questionnaires, the set of questions for the interviews, the notebook in the laboratory, or any kind of tools and techniques and any equipments which validate the findings are also come under the category of research data. And the attributions of this research data is that they are diverse, they are multi-source. And because these are multi-source and diverse, they become very valuable and costly affairs. Because if the data is being gathered from a multi-source aspects, you have spent a lot of manpower and money to collect that. It's very costly affair. And sometimes that data become very, very sensitive because if you are collecting a data of patients, the personal information of that patient is very, very important and very, very sensitive. So now you can imagine that when we have multi-source data, which is valuable and costly in the form of massive and complex data, how much valuable that data is. So we cannot afford to lose that data. You also need to look that data from different dimensions using different ways of reusable methods, tools, and techniques. And that's why we have been discussing this topic, which is very important nowadays. Research data management, though, looks very novel to us, but if you look into the American libraries and the libraries in the Europe, they spend huge amount of data money in the data management. They spend in the US, they spend trillions of the data money to manage the data. So this, but now they are reaping the benefit of that $1 trillion investment, because now you can see these AI tools and techniques, Chat GPT, Tom, all these tools and techniques. From where they are coming? They are coming from the West, not from the global South, because of the reason that artificial intelligence itself is a byproduct of a data management. Because now, if you see, if you are using these AI tools and techniques, they are accumulating their databases, not just because the existing data set. Now they are accumulating their data sets by our own queries. They are refining their own experiences. They are refining their own expert system when the users put their queries. So again, what is happening? It's happening is a data management, and the AI is also the refined the byproducts of data management. Therefore, as a library information science professional, we should not miss this bus of managing the data in your library, especially the library information science professionals who have been working in the research intensive libraries, research intensive institutions. This task is very, very essential. But some of the librarians, they give excuses that it's a top-down approach, because until unless, like in thesis management, because thesis management started by the UGC regulation. When the UGC has made it mandatory, Implement Center has signed an MOU with different universities, and the university started digitizing and uploading it on a Shodh Ganga. Similarly, the few libraries, in fact, large number of libraries have this argument that research data management cannot become a reality if such kind of a regulations come in existence. But I have different viewpoints in that context, and that viewpoint is that take an example of our data repositories. We call it Dataverse. The Dataverse was started in the Harvard when there was no data management policy in the US. In fact, there was no data management policy in the Harvard itself when the founders of Dataverse started managing the data. In fact, it was a voluntary aspect. Those who want to submit their data, they can submit it. Those who don't want to submit their data, they don't need to submit. But the researcher were educated. What are the different, benefits of managing the data? Because when they will manage the data, they can reap benefit out of it. They can reap personal benefit. The institution can also reap their personal benefit, and therefore, before understand what are its different benefits, as a library information science professional, you need to understand what are the different source of research data. So one is observational data, which become captured in a real time and is usually irreplaceable. For example, sensor data, survey data, sample neuroimages, all these come under the observational data, the data which is gathered through the observation methods. And these, one of the characteristics of the observational data is they are actually very expensive, because once you miss the one observation, it is very hard to capture the same data. Okay, for instance, you are observing how the flower bloom, the life cycle of flower bloom. So what will you do? You put a scanner into it. So you have to spend sometime 5 days, 6 days, 7 days continuously, or switch on your camera, and then you can record the experiences of flower blooming. So you can imagine how expensive it is only to capture this observational data. But imagine the other kind of observational data where you have to switch on your camera for months and years. So observational data is very, very expensive, that you need to remember. Then there are experimental data which happen in the labs, which require different set of controlled environment. So for instance, the chromatograms, taured magnetic field data. Apart from that, there are simulation data which is generated using the test models. So you have created one model and then continuously mash the generated data generated with those simulations, and then you capture the data. And then we have a drive and compile data. After the amalgamations of different data sets, And we have a canonical data, which is static or organic combinations or collection of smaller data sets. So these sources we need to understand from where this data is being coming up. So that's very, very important. And because ultimately, if you like as a librarian, you will not understand what are the different sources of the research data, you won't be able to manage it properly. Because for each source type of source data, you need to have a different set of rules and regulations, different set of mechanism to manage it, different set of mechanism to reuse. So that's the one thing we need to remember. Now, not just the research data, but now also have the open research data has also this terminology has come into existence. And this open research data means machines is available in bulk and provided in open formats. So open format means which can be analyzed, which can be reused with the open systems. The format is open. There is no restrictions. So the open research data means which people can reuse it without any restrictions. Open research data also means people can derive result out of it. Open research data also means people can analyze it, and the data can be used for the commercial purpose. So there are lots of licenses are also associated with the open research data. And as a researcher, you need to understand this: what is research data and what is open research data exists. So this is one video actually, and the video is interaction between two researchers. Video is interaction between two people who want to use one data set. So data set is one generated by one person who is on the right, and then on your left you can see that the person needs that data. But the other person says, I conducted a research 5 years ago, but that research, I don't know where the data is. Maybe in my pen drive, maybe in my laptop, but he discovered that that pen drive is lost. And that laptop which I have, it is being started up. But I don't know what kind of a variable I had given. It's only the number, but I can't figure out what our figure number means. What are different questions associated with the data? So if their variable is not there, I cannot understand it. So once you cannot understand it, you cannot understand its variable, the machine which will analyze it without variable, they will also not analyze. So what is the summation of this discussion? And summation says, data is in published paper. Sometimes he only has one copy of it. He said, I don't have a data. I publish all the data in the papers or in my thesis. You can get the data from there. I have only one copy of it and it is in a memory stick. That memory stick is lost. The software to read their data is also not available because that software company is now closed down and you cannot analyze it. And not idea about what are the different labels, variables I had given. Person who comprehended the data label left the organization. So I don't know the person who can read that data labels has left the organization. So ultimately, what is the crux? You cannot reuse the data. So therefore, to make that data reusable, you need to manage it. And who can take a responsibility? The organization of the concerned researcher can take a responsibility to reuse it. Okay, that therefore this whole concept life cycle of data management come into existence, that how to use it and how to make it interoperable and how the other people can reap benefit out of the data generated by others. So that's one crux. Apart from that, there are lots of stories that the data generated or managed has been, through the natural calamity, that data has been destroyed. The laptop where the data was, that is damaged, the hardware, the desktop is damaged, the hard disk is damaged, the bag which was being carried by the researcher, that has been stolen. So there are many examples that which give the reasons to manage the research data in their organizations. And what are the different benefits that if the data is being managed by your organization, they can find the data anytime. Not just your organization. Suppose you are conducted your research, and the research was conducted 5-6 years ago. Now, after 5-6 years ago, you got an idea that I want to reuse my data from different dimensions. I did a study on information access mechanism for certain set of people. But now I want to analyze my data on the basis of the gender. What was the different gender perceptions? So to understand that different gender perception, I need to have an access to the data, isn't it? And once I will have access to the data, then only I can distinguish what are the different genders perception exist. And therefore, this data should be accessible all the time. And how you can make your data accessible? Either you submit on your data repository of your institution, or there are different repositories. For instance, the Figshare, Dataverse, Genero exists where you can upload your data. And after you can see after 5-6 years, your data is still available there. You can download and you can use. So as a researcher point of view, you can understand that there are different benefits, that your data is always in publishable state if you are managing it. If somebody is also doing similar kind of a study and you want to contradict with that this study has already done by me 5 years ago, how you will contradict with that? Then you will show your thesis, but he can say you have steal the data from somewhere else, or your data is not correct. So you will make an argument that data is ethical, which I have given in my thesis, or that I'm the first one who has conducted this kind of a study. And that's only possible when you will manage your data. And so the duplication, one of the benefit for the researcher's perspective is that you can avoid duplications. You can enhance the, suppose you want to start a new research, one project or one paper, then how you will check that this is not a duplicate study you are doing? You will go through the data repositories, or you will go through different ways of accessing it, through your institutional data repository or the general data repository which you use. So through that, you can establish whether this work has already been done or not. So beforehand, you will have an information. It's not a duplicate effort. It's my original first time effort by any researcher. So that's another benefit. Apart from that, suppose after your completion of your thesis, you are making your data available to the general public. So what will happen? People will come to know about your research that you have done in the past. Similarly, your visibility will also increase. For instance, we as a researcher, to increase our visibility, we share our research paper in different platforms, social media platform or academic social networking sites. And their main aim is to enhance our visibility. Similarly, by sharing your data with other people, you can also enhance your visibility. So that's also one of the benefits, that it also increase your visibility. Another benefit is when you will share your data with a larger audience, there are chances you will get a invitation for collaborations. So because as a successful researcher, collaboration is also very, very important. So through collaboration, not you share, reinforce your own argument, but also learn from others. So it also fosters your research outcome. So that collaboration invitation, people will only come forward to collaborate with you when you will showcase your earlier work. And by sharing the data with others, you can showcase that. And of course, when you are sharing with other people, larger audience, you are demonstrating your integrity and validation of research result. You are also showcasing that you have compliant with the funder agency or the larger agency, the regulators. If you are in the UGC, like for instance, you are following the UGC compliant or not. If UGC says that you have to follow a certain set of guidelines to get a degree, and you are sharing your data, you are actually showcasing people that about your integrity, about your validation, and that you have compliant to the regulators guidelines. You can also benefit from high quality data collected by others. So when you are submitting the data to the repository and other people are accessing yours, similarly you can access the data of other people. So what will happen? You will have a large number of data through different sources. And when you have a large number of data through different sources, obviously your origins will be vital. Your thinking will be vital. And you can see the research in your domain from different dimensions. And while looking at the different dimensions, you can envisage different areas of research, which will have a more better practical and social implications. So these are very many benefits to the researchers. Similarly, there are benefits from from an institutional point of view. Institutional point of view means it also give your institutions more visible. It also help your institutions to take better decisions. It also helps permitting the creations of new data sets by combining data from multi-source, and it also helps the visibility in your of your institutions. So these are the few benefits we can imagine from the researcher's point of view, from the institution point. But this is really not happening as such, because people are not coming forward to share the data, and that trend is worldwide. If you see the leading country also, the large number of data sharing practices is being occurred in Germany, where 55% of the people come forward and share their data. So this is a wireless study which was conducted. It's quite an old study, but very comprehensive study, which showcase that the sharing trends are not very common in different parts of the world. So followed by the Germany, there is a Brazil where you will see there 42% of the sharing trends. Then we have 46% in the United States, 43% in the United Kingdoms, and there are more than United Kingdom, Japan, there are 44% sharing trends. And in the global south, you will see there are very, very less people are sharing, coming forward. And while a study also highlighted that what are the different reasons that the data is being not shared. And they found that 42% of the intellectuals says that intellectual property and confidentiality is one of the issues. Apart from that, there is no guidelines from the funder or institution that they have to share data. In fact, 26% says that I'm concerned that my research data will be scooped. Somebody will scoop my data, they will analyze it, and they will claim it on. So that's also one of the hesitations people have revealed. In fact, 26% says people can misinterpret my data. And there are various ethical concerns. So there are reasons this study has highlighted. But why data is shared, if you see that trend is that 67% of the data is being shared as a supplementary files in the journals articles. In many journal articles, you will see in the bottom of the paper, after the conclusion, they give the link to the supplementary material where you can access all the supplementary material, questionnaire, data files, and many other relevant data. So that's one of the reasons. One of the major access is through the journals supplementary files. Then 37% personal, institutional, project web page also gives access to the data. And only in the form of institutional repository, 26% of the data is accessible. And out of that, 19% of the data is accessible through discipline-specific repositories. However, the generic data repository provide access to only 6% of the data. However, if you ask me as an expert in this domain, where you should share your data, whether you should share your data to discipline-specific data repositories or the journal-specific repository, I would say the generic-specific repositories are the better place to share your data. Because suppose you are working in the humanities, so it doesn't mean that humanities data cannot use in the computer science. Computer science person also needs sometime access to the generic data, because this generic data will help the computer scientists to analyze those data and fine-tune their systems. Okay, so that's a thing. So it is advised when you are submitting your data to different repositories, prefer generic repository, because there you will find that will be accessed by different set of experts from different domains, and your data will have a better visibility, better access, and you will get a better recognition for sharing that data compared to the discipline-specific repositories. All right. Has anyone any question? Anyone has any question? Dr. Rakesh, Dr. Reshmi, Dr. C.G. Jose, Dr. Sukhdeep Kaur, Sobhagyavati Gupta. Anyone of you has any question? Kishore, Dr. Kishore,
I think
can we make?
no one had any question. Please continue.
Oh, all right. All right. So this is one aspect. Now, let me move to the next slide. So when you are managing the research data, there are different layers. There are different ways of managing. So when you are managing the data on the OD pyramid, it is advised that first you manage your raw data, which is lying in the laptops, desktops, hard disks. Collect that data first as a library if you are going to start data management system in your institution, and then try to extract the data from different published articles, different articles or through the online sources, and then from the supplementary files which are given the articles, and then at the last publication with the data contained explained within the articles. So that's one way. The ODP pyramid says that how we should start. This ODP pyramid I have taken from one report of League of European Universities, League of European Research Universities, wherein they highlighted that this should be the best practices when you are establishing a research data management system in your institutions. Okay, so as for the challenges are concerned, there are different set of challenges. For instance, there is no policy in the leadership because it requires a lot of experts in different domains, and to lead those domains, we need a leadership who can understand the computer scientist problems, who can understand the human resource management people problems, who can understand the librarians problems, who can also understand the researchers problem. So leadership is a very, very essential, and we have been facing to identify such leaders who can lead such diverse team, and that's one of the challenges in research data management. In fact, to build an infrastructure, because it required a lot of different set of hardwares and softwares and the manpower. So building an infrastructure which suits to this cause is also one of the challenges because these are very costly infrastructure. So obviously funds management and the people who can advocate for the funding, who can advocate for establishing this kind of a system in institution, that advocacy is also very less. Okay, that's advocacy is also one of the challenges. Then there are legal issues associated with the data management, assigning different roles and responsibility to different team members, data discovery, making it findable, the challenges, and how to establish the trustworthy in your repository systems. That is also one of the challenges in research data management. So these challenges are very, very essentials to understand, to overcome these challenges. And I'm sure over a period of time, as a library information science professional, we will, resolve all these challenges one by one, and different people will work on these. Different people will do comprehensive research on each areas, and we would be able to come up with some solutions. So, as a not just data management system as a repositories, data management is also essential for the researchers when they tend to submit a paper in some of the leading publishers. For instance, the Nature. If you want to publish a paper in the Nature, you need to provide access to your data sets to the publisher. Until they will not actually send it for the review. Similarly, Public Library of Science, biomedical journals, PANOS, all these journals actually provide this kind of a guideline that data management is providing access to data is essential. Then data licenses are also, you need to understand who owns the copyright in the data, whether the university owns the copyright or the researchers. So there are different licenses we need to associate with the data. We need to take the permission of the researchers to make the data open. So there are licensing knowledge also we need to have. For instance, Open Data Commons, Creative Commons, Open Government licenses. So these, similar to the publication, the license can also be associated. For instance, we talk about this Creative Commons, where you can make the data non-commercial, where you can make the data non-derivative. So these licenses help us to receive the open data also. Researchers want to make their data open, but they are hesitant to make the data, commercially complete. They are apprehensive of deriving result out of it. So by associating the NC and SA, by associating the NC and ND, you can restrict the users of the data sets to derive result out of it, to make it non-commercial. So these licenses knowledge is also essential. Apart from that, as a library information science professionals, our role is not just to establish data repositories. Our role is also to understand the problem and solutions to the data management. And the solution can come up when you will understand the perspective of the person who has created the data, who has generated the data, how we want to manage the data. Okay, and therefore, we should give a comprehensive data management plan to the researcher beforehand starting their research, so that they should keep in mind all these parameters and they can make their data compliant with the institutional guidelines, institutional infrastructure, or making it more visible. So data management plan orders all these requirements, not just data description, acquisition, data curation, but also legal, ethical issues and storage and sharing issues as well. So this, as a library information science professional, data management planning should also be discussed in detail. So data management planning, there's one platform where I am also a project member. It's called the DMP tool, which is started by the California University. And this California University has created a tool. So any researcher who want to create their data management plan, that how the data should be managed from one stage to another stage to the end, they will go to this tool and they will give their objective. In synopsis, they will submit online, and that this DMP tool will create a DMP, data management plan, automatic customized data management plan, which they submit along with their synopsis or along with their project proposal. In fact, in the Western world, it's very essential to submit the data management plan along with the thesis and the project proposal. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to pursue it. Similarly, in global South, in India and South Asia, this kind of initiative may start, and therefore we need to learn how to use these data management tools. So before preparing data management plan, librarian can ask all these questions. What is the story of the data? What is the form and format? What is the expected lifespan of the data set? How could the data be used and repurposed? Who owns the data? How should the data be made accessible? All these questions they can ask. So as a library-oriented model of institutional repository, you can see we need to have a drivers, why, what, how. So these why is address the storage, security, preservation, compliance, quality sharing issues. Why, what is a strategy, policy, guidelines we should have, and the services, and how we will influence. We will create an acceptance. We will establish a culture. We will create a demand. We will create an incentive, rules, governance, politics, resources, skills, communication, and context. With that, we can influence the researchers to deposit their data in the data. So this is one of the library-oriented model of research data management, and there are different softwares which one can use. For example, Dataverse, Data, NADA, Hookwork, Secan, Decan. These software help to and as a lab, these are different rules. When there's a team of data management, where we can establish a library information science professional. You can see here as far as the licensing issues, IP, intellectual property, rules and regulations, guidance, making it findable, cataloging, all these data management planning, or as a technology watch gatekeeper, we can have our role, this whole ecosystem of research data management. So not just that, if you see the trend worldwide in research data repositories, you will see we are far behind. We have only 45 repositories which are indexed on RE3 data index. Our university state has more than 900 repositories, and this data is quite a few years old. I'm sure they have now more than 1,000 data repositories. But you can see the leading countries are actually already doing this data management systems. They are creating. However, this global South, China, India, we are really far behind. All right. So What kind of contents are available in these repositories? You can see they are more or less, these are scientific and statistical data formats, standard office document, images, plain text, raw data. So all type of formats are available in these data repositories which are being created. Okay, and you can see the licenses used. Creative Commons is also being one of the popular licensings, and then see many PSD and licenses are also. Then, if you categorize these type of access research data repositories, we can categorize in three forms. Form is open access, where anybody can access them, register. Once you have to register it for accessing it. Another is restricted, nobody can access it. So there are three access types. Similarly, when you are establishing data repository, you can in the beginning, you can decide what kind of access you want to provide, whether you want to provide registered or open access, or you want to make it restricted. So that's one thing. So Indian scenario, you can see there are only 45 data repositories, but unfortunately, all these data repositories don't follow standard formats. There are lot more need to be done. There are no data standards are being followed in these 45 data repositories, and therefore to achieve a fair, findable, accessible, usable, we need to establish a very standard data repository where each and every steps have been followed meticulously. So with this, thank you very much. So if you have any question, any suggestions, or anything you would like to highlight after this talks, you are most welcome. So what do you participants?
Thank you, sir, for your very informative and insightful talk. I hope participants will get benefit from the topic covered by you. Now, question answer session start. If you have any question, please ask from the spot. I request to participant to ask question from the spot. Please.
Anyone has a question?
Please write your question in chat box.
Yeah.
Don't have any questions. Surprising. I request participant to actively participate in the discussion. Please feel free to ask the question from the expert. Please.
How many of them are there?
I think many professionals are here. Sir, can I ask one question?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Sir, let us know if any policy guideline from the government or any bodies regarding the research data management.
In India, it's there is as such no guidelines, but one funder, there's ICSR says that after completing of the project, you have to submit the data to the funder. So there are few funders, few institutions have coming up. In fact, India has 45 data repositories, but this ICSR has come with the guidelines that after completion of the project, they have to submit the. And there are a couple of other institutions, I think, I'm not sure about it, but there are a couple of other funders in the science and technology, scientific field. They have also coming with this kind of guidelines. But I'm aware of ICSR. It's a very formative stage in India. But as a researcher's point of view, see, it has a lot of implications. It has a lot of benefits. And I have explained all those benefits. When you do your PhD, and if you don't carry your data, sometimes you want to use the data in a different context. It happens. And if you have no access to the data, you cannot work on your idea. Sometimes you can come up with the different questions after your PhD, 3-4 years of PhD. But if you don't have access to your data, how you will fulfill your quest? So that's very, very important. Is you need to have access to the data sets which you created or which you generated, and then analyze it from different angles using different variables. So this is, as far as your question is concerned, I am aware about of ICSR, which has made it mandatory now. That they have one repository also they have started, which is being managed by Implement Center.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, one more question. Do you feel some psychology is also work behind not to sharing the data? Because
Yeah, this I already,
if we, as a researcher, I have worked hard to collect the data. Why I should to share to the others?
yeah,
That is the question.
but yeah, that's it. That is, but another, this I told you, this is a benefit also, because when you are doing a research, the ultimate aim of research, what is the ultimate aim? Not just to get the job. The ultimate aim of a research is to get more visible, isn't it? And that's why we publish papers, we give talks. So when you, if you are sharing your data, it will give you visibility like papers and the other things. So, and it also establish your integrity. So there are many reasons I can give you, which are tell us that you should share your data. But I'll think from a other point of view. You will also have access to other researchers' data. When you are providing you access to your data, you will also get access to the other people's data. Okay, so there are many benefits. In fact, if you not provide access to your data, you are keeping it in your laptop. Your laptop may be damaged. Your laptop may be stolen, isn't it? But if you will share it with others through the data repository, it will remain accessible. Suppose you are traveling to a different country, and that time you need a data. Your laptop is at home. Then how will you access it? If it's access through repository, you can access it anywhere, doesn't it? So there are a lot more benefits. I can tell you, but I think it's a matter of culture. We need to implicate the culture. We need to educate the researchers about different benefits. And I'm sure like information science professional can take a lead in this area to educate the people, to tell about its benefits, its advantages, and how they can increase their visibility among the users.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir, for it's very relevant.
Hello,
topic.
ma'am. I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
So we always say that even I'm working on this, research support services. We always talk about that we need to manage the data and all what you have said, na. But the thing is, as a researcher, we don't know how to share our data, where to share the data, and if someone is using our data, whether that person will cite us or not. These are the questions which bothered us while when we think about this research data management.
Yeah, that's a main problem actually. Some researchers want to share their data, but they don't know where to share it. And there is the role of professionals who are working in the libraries, professionals who are associated with the research ecosystem in the higher education institutions. So I'm telling you, there are two type of data repositories. One is institutional data repositories, another is a generic data repositories. So sorry, not institution. One is generic data repository, then is subject specific data repositories, and another is a data repository which is created by your institutions. Okay, so where do you want to submit it? Or like, so you can submit your institution data repository. That's essential. If your institution has made a guideline that you have to submit it. But if you want to share your data repository to generic data repository, what will happen? Lot more people who are in different domains, in different subjects, they will also access your data. And you can also submit your data to a discipline specific repository. Suppose you are working in a biotechnology area. Okay, so you can submit your data to biotechnological data repositories. But if you will simultaneously also submit in generic data repositories, then people will actually, different set of people will access your data. And there are repositories. For instance, I'm telling you, Figshare. If you go to the Google and submit figshare.com, and Figshare, you can create your account and you can upload your data. And Figshare, with a click of mouse, you can make your data private, you can make your data public. So if you want to share your data with other people, you can make it public. So other people will access it. But you will make it private, only you can access it. So that's the power of these data repositories. So there are already infrastructure available which you can use it freely. Okay, but there are certain limitations of space and other things. In fact, there are other repositories you can use like Genedo. So Genedo also you can upload the content, your data you can upload. You can also upload your other kind of data. Different set of data you can upload on Genedo also, and that's actually this open platform. Genedo is open platform. The Fixture is a commercial, it's a proprietary product. Okay, so and there are many. These are
Okay,
two
sir.
I'm highlighting is these two
Sir,
I'm highlighting is because I use them frequently.
okay, sir. Thank you. So while depositing the data, whether we have to follow some guidelines in which format we have to submit, whether coded data or analyzed data, or actually, sir, I am
First
at the
is
stage of collecting the data right now.
yeah.
And
See,
I
when
really want to I really want even I'm a librarian here in Chandigarh, and I really want to submit my data somewhere so that it will be used by somewhere else.
yeah. So one important thing when you want to make it reusable is defining the variable. Format is secondary. Format can be changed, but if you not define the variable in the beginning, people will not be able to understand. So suppose you have a data in Excel, it can be uploaded in Excel, and using different tools and technique, it can be converted from Excel format to different formats. But if you not define your variables properly in the data sheets, people would not be able to read it. Therefore, when you are creating a data, it is advised to define your variable properly. The coding sheet should also be attached. Okay, so that is the essential things. And of course, if you will upload in a standard format, because these repositories which I have mentioned, they allow different formats. You can upload in Excel, you can upload in Access, you can upload in MySQL, whatever format you want to upload, JPG, PNG, Word file, PDF file, whatever format you want to upload, you can upload it. But defining the variable and coding sheet is very, very essential to be embedded in the system.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
सर डॉक्टर मिनीमोल का एक क्वेश्चन है चैट बॉक्स में द यूनिवर्सिटी सर प्लीज यू कैन रीड
the universities are Dr. Minimol says the universities are uploading the thesis when we are submitting it to Shodhganga. Is it enough for sharing? Yeah, we can have access to all content there. Yeah, but we can have that's a very actually common thoughts come to the researcher's mind when we are submitting our thesis. It has all the data. Why we should submit the data sheets now? But remember, your thesis is a part of your objectives, but your data is a larger. Your data set is larger than your objective. Okay, got my point? In your thesis, you include only those tables which match with the objective of the thesis, objective of your research work. But in the data sets, there are a large number of data also there which doesn't match with the objective. So one data set can analyze from different perspectives. For instance, I'm giving an example, and this example I give everywhere. Suppose you are conducting a study on undergraduate and postgraduate students, and you include in your thesis. So how you include in your thesis? You include the total number, isn't it? Then on the basis of objective, on the basis of research questions, you include in your thesis undergraduate and postgraduate, but you don't distinguish their perception. But now, down the years, I want to conduct another study. What is the difference between the perception of undergraduate and postgraduate students? I need to access the data, not the thesis, because thesis has not included different perceptions. So here, what I would like to highlight is that your data set contains the larger, questions. However, your thesis only addressed to certain set of questions, certain set of research questions. All right. I hope I answered you. She left. Anyway, so
there
anyone
is
has
one
any question?
Ma'am, there is
Yeah.
one question in WhatsApp group that regarding if the data is 5 years old, because suppose I
Yeah.
have submitted my data before 2020 or somewhere, whether we can use that data in a current situation?
It depends actually. It depends on subject to subject, research question to research questions. Like for instance, the humanities. If you are in the humanities, 5 years is nothing. 5 years is nothing. 5 years is latest, isn't it? But if you will compare that data in science and technology in different, a subject which is highly paced, that data might become outdated, isn't it? But data is data. We cannot look into as a outdated or the recent. It can be reused anywhere. Sometimes we need older data also, isn't it? Sometimes we need older data also. Sometimes we need data which of the research which was done in the past to establish the growth of the subject. So how will you establish the growth of a subject without having access to the old data sets? So that's actually subject to subject. It depends on a different perspective. So here, time doesn't matter. Time matter depend on your perspective, depend on your area of research, depend on what you tend to achieve. All right. I hope I answered it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think to do a comparative studies, there the past data is most useful.
Yeah. So that's what I'm telling you. The data is data, isn't it?
Exactly.
Data is data. Yeah. Data is data.
Thank you, sir.
Might
Sir,
be
I
used.
really want your PPT for my research work. If it is possible for you to share with us.
Surely. I will.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone has any question? Dr. Reshmi, Dr. Rekha. Yeah. I think I'm done my part. So, okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And very thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation for this wonderful presentation. And also, I am thankful to the participant for actively involved in this question answer session. And now I conclude the session. As we know that research data management play a important role in libraries in preservation and accessibility of valuable research data. Dr. Bhardwaj has shared his insights and knowledge on this topic, providing valuable guidance on best practices, tools, and strategy to effectively manage research data in a library. And thank you everyone, and thank you participant for your presence. And now we conclude the session. And once again, thanks to the resource person, Dr. Kumar Bhardwaj ji, and our co-coordinator, Dr. Mohammad Rafiq ji. Mohammad Rafiq ji, anything you want to share with the audience, please.
No, ma'am, everything is okay. And Rajkumar sir has given the wonderful.
This is the very relevant topic, and today it's a need to understand the research data management.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Maya, ma'am, and Rafiq ji, and all the participants. Thanks to each one of you for patiently listening me and for your wonderful questions. It enriched my understanding about the subject. And stay connected. If you have any doubts, you can send an email to me on my email ID. I'm just posting it in the chat box, and you can get back to me for any questions on this topic. I would also like to highlight this one special issue in the desktop journal. That's the Journal of Library Information Science and Technology. Library Information Science and Technology. We have published a special issue on research data management. So you can access it. It was published in 2019, 6th issue that you can have access. It's freely available, open access. So you can download the articles, and that gives you comprehensive understanding about this in this topic. Because many scholars from the foreign also submitted the paper on this topic for the special issue, and we have published. It has come out very well. So you can have a look for if you want to understand more about this area. And I have also published one book, Research Data Management, like it's, with one of my friends, Paul Van from the UK. If you want to have it, it's also available on the image. So thank you very much, MM and sir from Bharat Digital Academy, all the participants. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And now participants are requested to kindly join us tomorrow and same time in third day national level program. Thank you, everyone.
Not ma'am, same time, 2:30, sir. Ma'am, actually.
Same time? Same time hoga?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.